Good evening, people, and welcome to another edition of the Pilot Review Show. I am Captain Blade, J52, and I am joined this week by some of my merry misfit cohorts. We have standing immediately off to my left,
Hello.
the RP hologram of the hour, Artie. And then sitting off to my right like a dunce is the teacher of the Kirby variety.
Cap on my head.
Also, she's not on a stool.
Coiffed hairdo. Thank you very much.
Well, I mean, that can change, but you know. She would miss it if I didn't give her just a little bit of grief. And then in the channel, we also have one of our friends just back from his
hey, at least
monthly fleeing, the Timberwolf.
Also, I have a new keyboard, so you won't hear all that clicking anymore.
Yeah, he can
Very
say that at
nice.
least. Clicky, 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 clicky. And just to annoy a certain viewer out there who loves to pop in now and again, this week
Which is not
for
really
the
a
snack,
Much
snack.
like
I have
Leroy
chicken.
Jenkins. Much like Leroy Jenkins, he has chicken.
Exactly. But, anyways, we're running a little bit behind. We're kind of highly off schedule due to prior real-life obligations. Good real-life obligations, mind you. But, anyways, let's go ahead and let's get started into our show this week. First up, we have the introducing three new styles of 3D printed ship. So as folks know, a few months ago they had introduced the 3D printing of the ships that they had been talking about. Everything. This was hyped up quite a bit. Now we have three different types that start off at various prices. We have the new sizes of 4 inches, 7 inches, and 12 inches. You can fully customize them to match your ship in game and whatnot. Then they do have a little video here. Now, I do like what I see. Everything, that there are at least a few cheaper options. But, yeah, thoughts from our panel here.
For me, as the RP stuff, I like this. As now, you know, you can get the 4-inch, so now it can match the size of quite a few other, you know, modeled ships and stuff like that out there. Like, for those that play like Star Wars Armada and other ships like that, you have ships that are about 4-inch to 7-inch and stuff like that. Now you have your little Starfleet vessel that can match that size. But
yeah, and
go ahead.
go ahead.
I
thought you were finished.
Oh no, well, it's just that these aren't really cheap. That's about it.
Yeah, they're not. I agree with Artie. They're not cheap. They are more affordable than the prices that we had been seeing previously.
Yes.
So it is nice they're expanding and are making, are giving us a more affordable option.
Yep.
That is $300. I'm out.
Yeah.
You know, when it's the, you know, the option. Yeah. So I'm glad to see.
Yeah, teacher's a little
I'm
quiet.
a little quiet on my end.
For
Am
me,
I?
I am really, I'll be the first one to say I'm excited about this one, because especially now that the prices have changed, if you want that artisanal, super artiste version, you know, that they hyped up when they first came out with this, it starts off at a base price of $550 that it says in the new blog when they updated. So, you know, you want your ship fully customized, and that foot-long model that they were showing off when this first debuted, you're looking at, you know, on average, I would say $600 or more, which is just asinine. But the fact that you can get 20... Don't start that, Dark Blade. Here he is posting in chat $5 foot-long from Subway.
But could you imagine?
But, oh, I know. But the fact that you've got the 4-inch model, and that's the one I'm probably going to order 1 or 2 of, you know, for $20. And I was just testing this out with my Odyssey class, And, you know, you can't have it like the super custom handcrafted paint jobs. It looks like it's more basic, but those are roughly around the same size as some of the Eagle Moss models that you can get. Like, I'm looking at a few of them right now. It's probably, if it's not the same length as the Enterprise A, it's going to be maybe a tad bit shorter, or depending on the model, you know, whatnot, it's going to be roughly around that size, which is not bad. With a 7-inch being more along the size of the Eagle Moss Vengeance, probably, just as far as the length of it. You know, so for $20, having something of that size, it's 3D printed, and it's custom of your ship in game, that to me is nice. That's honestly what I was looking for. I mean, I wasn't looking for, you know, 1 foot, 2 foot long model of my ship, but you know, you have that little 4-inch model. It's detailed. It looks just like what you customized it in game, and it might not be hand painted, but at least it's something you can get several of on your desk, and you can have your own little battle fleet you have in the game. It's now sitting on your desk, and it doesn't break your wallet or your bank account or credit loans to do. I'm all for this. I like the fact that they offer these smaller options for players. They'll definitely see more business now.
Yeah, now I just got to figure out the size scale between all the different ships so I can get the right sizes.
Oh, God.
You know, you can't have a Sovereign the same size as Defiant. That just looks ludicrous.
He would.
You'll be okay, Artie.
I won't.
It'll be okay.
Just saying. And everything, if the price point wasn't so high on some of the larger ones, I would definitely get it.
Especially now.
I really would.
It's just now that 550
Or if I win the lottery, whatever
base
happens
price
first.
tag on the largest, most customized option. That is a sizable chunk of money for a model. Granted, it looked great on the live stream. It's hand painted. They can all the shield vanities and everything else, but that is a sizable chunk of money to ask someone to pay for a model, considering you're also asking them to invest in the game as far as buying anything from Lockbox keys and R&D packs, just buying things out of the C-store. You know, that's a lot to ask in addition to. I mean, I'm not saying that they're trying to like beg people into buying in-game stuff, but their big advertisement is they want you to invest in the game for getting in-game items. To put a hefty price tag on a model of your ship from in-game is a reach. That's why I'm glad we got the $20 ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. But, anyways, for those that are curious and everything, we will have a link in the description so you can go check that out. They do have a nice little unboxing video that the article links to. But, moving along, we have the new Deep Space Nine Lockbox announcement.
Hey. Okay, so, with the launch of Victory is Life, we are getting a new lockbox called Space Nine Lockbox. This is going to have a number of things in it. Looks to be shaping out to be a pretty good box. So we have our holographic Deep Space Nine bridge officers, join your crew and away team, and a vanity-only Ferengi shield, and a Lobby Hunter ground set based on the Tosk Hunters, the DS9 episode Captive Pursuit, and Ferengi-inspired outfits based on the entire of familiar DS9 characters. And there's also ships, so we have the Jem'Hadar light battle cruiser, Tier 6, and was originally the primary vessels in the adversary fleets that assaulted the Alpha and Beta quadrants during the Dominion War. Okay? We also have...
Kirby, you're fading in and out. You've got a lot of robot going on.
Oh no. Not good.
It wasn't too bad, but...
How bad? Okay.
It was bad that
Shall I
everyone
keep
mentioned
going?
it at the same time. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Alright, the Jem'Hadar Light Battle Cruiser Tier 6 ship comes equipped with a new Universal Console, the Personal Wormhole Generator, which allows you to travel great distances very quickly while untargetable and invisible for a brief time. And you'll regain hull hit points. When exiting, you gain a potent damage buff. Obedience is victory straight. You'll
Yeah, I
summon
think we
a
lost.
Jem'Hadar vessel whenever you activate engineering.
Yep, we're losing her.
No!
Why
I'm
is it that
back.
we hear that, but we don't hear when you're trying to explain things?
I don't know. I don't know. Shall I keep going?
I could say what it is,
Let's not do
but
that.
I don't want to embarrass your husband on air.
Okay.
Try to.
My husband is at work. He works night. Okay. Obedience is victory. Summon a Jem'Hadar attack ship. Whenever you activate engineering team, tactical team, or science team, this ally will fight by your side for a brief time. Subsequent activations of team abilities will extend the duration of his. And we also have the Maquis Raider Tier 6 from the War. And woo! This thing is interesting. Comes with the plasma with the console, the Plasma Storm module. Trying to say console and plasma at the same time. Oh.
Oh.
They create
Yep, she's exploding again.
better now.
For
the moment.
I think we got you back.
Okay.
Maybe.
For the moment.
Activating the Plasma Storm module creates a massive plasma storm, similar to the Badlands cyclones at the target's location. Additionally, it can use an experimental weapon called the Phlogiston Projector. Try saying that 5 times.
That lasted
It was
almost
the
10 seconds.
phlogiston.
The Phlogiston. Yep. Okay. A phlogiston, an archaic element believed by 18th century Earth scientists to be a source of combustion. Although scientifically inaccurate, the term stuck around as sort of slang. So it emits oxygen-rich mixture of precious elements and ignites them. And let's see, and you also get Badlands Tactics. Well, the starship, and you're within 3 kilometers of plasma storm control. You will gain a moderate boost in stealth, defense, and flanking damage. Okay.
Yeah, you're still exploding super hard.
Somebody want to take? No, I'm not. No, I'm
Are you
not.
downloading
I will-
anything or uploading?
Not that I know of.
Is it storming where you are?
I can quickly go over it.
Yeah.
Alright,
Woohoo.
so we left off at Badlands Tactics. Next is the
Yep.
Universal Console. You get the special console based entirely on the principles of the Ferengi Alliance can be acquired from the DS9 Lockbox, the hostile acquisition Universal Console. This console allows the user to conduct the routine inspection on nearby vessels. The vessel is immobilized while the inspection is taking place. An inevitable event that something of a devious nature is found, the inspection team is instructed to cause as much significant system damage as possible. So it's basically you control the enemy for a moment, and then you just give them hell as soon as you control them. Additionally, users of this console will tend to find stray GPL in the wreckage of their enemies. So you get another source of gold pressed platinum. Along
Yeah,
with
that's
this, you also
definitely a
get,
Ferengi console, alright.
space and ground weapons, as well as the Vanity Shield. The Vanity Shield makes you look like Ferengi ships. You get the image of that on one of the Discovery ships across field there. The weapons are the Ferenginar plasma weapons. You get everything. They get everything from omnidirectionals to wide arc heavy cannons to just your regular beam arrays and cannons. Ferenginar plasma, it can give them something special. To target, you get negative 20% all damage for 10 seconds, stacks up 4 times. So that's what the target gets. And at 4 stacks, disables for 5 seconds, and then removes all the Ferenginar plasma. So it's another, I think, another crowd control kind of ability once you're in a big firefight. But for personal traits, you get for ground, Serenity, increased kit performance, and health regeneration. Another round one, Yielding Feint. Using a self-heal will placate attackers targeting you, rendering them unable to target you briefly. Max once every 15 seconds. Another ground one, Maquis Guile. Increase run speed and outgoing control effects. And outgoing control effects are more effective. And then for space, we got Enlightened, increased exotic damage and hull regeneration. Pseudo Submission. You use a self-heal that placates attackers targeting you, briefly rendering them unable to target you, max every once every 15 seconds. And then Maquis Tactics, which increase damage from cloaking ambush, the buff received from decloaking. Next, we got new duty officer assignments. You get the Gamma Quadrant Research duty officer assignments, like the different temporal and Delta Quadrant ones, I believe it was. Yeah. You get all sorts of rewards, like a lot of dilithium and titles, apparently. Next, and something I find very special, you get holographic Deep Space Nine bridge officers.
Curlin
Every
here.
There it is.
He's been waiting.
There it is.
Curlin here.
There it is.
This is Curlin. I'm
With
sorry.
every
if he
opening
says
of the Deep Space Nine lockbox, there is the chance of receiving a box that contains one of the following bridge officers, which is Curlin, Loris, Quark, Sheriff Mina, Wayun, Rom, Durakan Rex, Lek, and Nog, which you can see all. Dukan Rex.
Now, does
Dukan
Curlin actually
Rex.
say Curlin here if you spot him?
I'm just saying, if he does,
Probably.
I will bust out laughing. I'm just saying. And he just walks around the map. He shoots his phaser. Curlin here.
No, it's going to be the same holographic Curlin that we got the dab emote from. He's just going to run up to the enemy and just dab in front of him, and he's not going to do any damage.
No, the dab will do infinite damage.
Oh.
Oh, man. Oh, lordy.
See, I don't care if I get any of the other holographic buffs. Just give me Curlin. Just, I'm going to get like an army of Curlins, and I'm going to take them down to the Dyson Ground Battle Zone and like equip them with
You know
the
what would be the
nastiest
best part of this
ground
joke,
gear
though?
that I can.
They gave Curlin the best ground traits out of
What is
all
that?
of them. So he was actually built like a beast of a... Like, he rivaled the Jim Hadar.
Yes, please.
But you had to have the trade-off of he always says Curlin here.
You hear this, Porticus?
I think it'd
You're
be
in
funny.
this, Porticus.
Oh, yes, please.
So does that mean like when you're on ground and you're using them, someone else will hear them doing that, doing the Curlin here?
Oh, yeah.
And every few seconds it has to be Curlin here.
Otherwise, they just lose all of its
Curlin.
stats.
Yep, exactly.
All right. Moving on, we get the Lobby Store ground sets,
Oh, Lord.
which are themed around the Tosk Hunters, as mentioned above. You also get the Hunter's Energy Crossbow and the Hunter's Armor, which I don't see the stats here.
They don't have the stats on the ground set
They
yet.
don't have the stats yet.
Okay. But we have the set bonuses from how it looks for Pursuit Unbound. For that, you get for 15 seconds plus 25% all damage. Diminishes with distance of current target. Then plus 50 control resistance rating, plus 50% shield resistance. Place a return marker. Activating again within 15 seconds teleports to marker. So kind of like the Subspace Rift thing. Kind of like that, I guess. And then the 2-set Ambitious Intentions, plus 150% Hunter's Crossbow Power Recharge Speed while Pursuit Unbound is active. Wow. And then you get Lobby Store Ferengi inspired outfits. You get the Tycoon tailed suit, the replica Grand Nagus outfit, and that seems to be it. But besides that, you get R&D packs, boosts, and other assorted items from the Lockbox, as well as Lobby, of course. Oh no.
I have but one question. I hope this is a thing. Well, actually, maybe not really, but if I stick the hollow Kurland in a Lobi Ferengi outfit, does he say, "Kurland here," in a Ferengi-style voice?
No, actually it'd be more of, "Kurland, here's Prophet in the wind." That would be awesome.
Oh no. Quit.
Yes, please.
Chat, just go ahead and start rioting now.
Just remember, Cryptic's adding it to the game, not us. They're at fault.
Uh-huh. And also, very big props to Bordicus for being a good sport and
Yes.
actually letting us have a
Yes.
holographic version
Yep.
of, well, himself, technically.
But yeah.
But, I hear Kirby trying to talk. All I hear is...
Is that bad?
Oh, well, we heard that. Oh, and there you go.
Well, I heard that.
Oh.
And now I hear nothing.
Okay. But yeah, that's basically everything from the Lockbox.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to assume
I can
Kirby
still
has
hear you.
exploded for the
Oh.
moment.
It's like
Oh, I heard
surfacing
that,
it
I heard
like a
that.
submarine. You just like, is it still there? Then
I don't.
disappears out of nowhere.
I don't know what the problem is.
Yeah.
Anyways, but moving along, speaking of lockboxes, we actually have these
Yes.
stats for some of
we'll
our
start
lockbox
with
and Lobi
the
items.
Jemadar Light Battlecruiser Tier 6. Starting off, we'll just go ahead and go down to details. You're able to get it from the Lockbox. Level required is 40. Hull strength is a 1.15, so 34,500 at level 40, with a max of 46,000 at level 60. Shield modifier at 1.3. It's a 5-3 weapons layout. Device slots are 3. Then for bridge officer stations, which I really like about this, you get a Lieutenant Commander Tactical / Intel, Commander Engineering, a Lieutenant Science, and a Commander Universal. So that's going to be fun to mess with. Console modifications is 4 Tactical, 4 Engineering, 3 Science. Bridge base turn rate is 13 degrees per second. Impulse modifier is 0.17, inertia is 50, and a plus 10 to weapon power, plus 10 to engine power. And you get the Universal Console Personal Wormhole Generator. You get the Cruiser commands of the shield frequency modulation and weapon system efficiency. It can equip dual weapons, so there you go. And it comes with the Starship Mastery package Battlecruiser. So you get plus physical and kinetic damage resistance, critical severity, energy damage resistance, max HP, and then the Starship trait Obedience is Victory. So we went over the Universal Console over a little bit when we went over the Lockbox stuff. Same with the Starship trait. But yeah, it's basically its passive is for the console bonus directed energy damage and defense, and basically get to do the fluidic space rift thing, but without a AoE once you exit it. You get more buffs instead. And then the Obedience is Victory, you get a bug ship to help you out every time you do a engineering, tactical, or science team. So there you go. For Admiralty stats, you got engineering 57, science 24, and tactical 45. With the special as plus 8 tactical and psi per attack ship. Yeah, there's that. Moving on to the Maquis Raider. Yes. As you can hear from the maniacal laughing. This is a...
Darkblade's maniacal laugh is OP, please.
Please nerf, yes. No. The Raider is a miracle worker ship. So it gets all the
Yes,
miracle
please.
worker stuff, the
Yes, please.
instinctive routing and all that. The bonus to all subsystem power. You got the containment layering, temporary hull based on max hull. The Heisenberg decoupling, secondary shield based on max shields. Plasma purge, self-targeting AoE, plasma damage over time. The Ingenious solution, bonus to recharge speed of bridge officer and captain abilities. And Barclay maneuver, photonic copy of your starship uses ramming speed on nearby foe, which is pretty funny. But going past that, we'll go ahead and just drop down into the starship details. This is available in the Lobby store. The level requirement is 40. Hull strength is a 1.1, so 33,000 at level 40 and 44,000 at level 60. Shield modifier is a 0.8, so kind of squishy there. It's a 5-1 weapons layout, so you're losing a couple of aft weapons. 2 device slots, and here's where the maniacal laugh comes back in. Bridge officer stations, you get 1 commander tactical miracle worker, 1 ensign universal, 1 lieutenant universal, 2 lieutenant commander universals. So get your usual OP raiderness. For your console modifications, you get your 5 tactical, 3 engineering, 3 science, and then the 1 universal slot. Base turn rate is 20 degrees per second. Impulse modifier is 0.21. Inertia 85. Then you get the plus 15 to weapons power, plus 5 to shield, shield, engines, and auxiliary power. The console universal plasma store module. It can equip dual cannons, and it has improved raider flanking, plus 33% bonus damage when striking a target's rear flank. And of course, the innovation ship mechanic, experimental weapon slot with the Phlogiston projector, and it comes with the Starship Mastery Package Raider. So plus accuracy, plus defense, plus all weapon damage, plus crit severity, and then the Badlands tactics. Again, we did talk about all all the experimental weapons and stuff. So you do directed blasts of damage to a target with the experimental weapon. The Universal Console just gives you the pillar of plasma storm at a target, and the Starship trait gives you while the Starship trait is slotted, you are within 3 kilometers of the anomaly or plasma storm you control. You gain a moderate boost of stealth, defense, and flanking damage. So, moving on to the Admiralty ship stats: engineering 35, science 35, and tactical 56, with a special of plus 20 engineering and science when alone. So that's a fun little ship there. But yeah, before I say thoughts, Raider OP, don't nerf, it's best in game. Continue.
Yeah.
No, I mean I'll agree with them on that one. The battle cruiser's okay. It's going to be on par with a good good few ships at the high end, but that Raider, I'm throwing down the gauntlet. Find one that's better in the game currently than what they're showing us right now. It's going to be a Raider that has potentially 6 tactical console slots, and it's got a tactical Miracle Worker, Commander Tactical / Miracle Worker seat. So you can have Narrow Sensor Bands 3 in there with a Beta 3. You can do Fire at Will 3. You can do Cannon Scatter Volley 3. You can do Exceeded Rated Limits 3. That's something I explored on the Ops Miracle Worker on my channel a while back. Darkblade helped me with. There's, you can do 3-4 different variations of builds just because you have that Commander Tactical mixed with Miracle Worker. It is a insanely nice Raider, and the way I'm looking at it, this could even compete with some of the top, what people would consider the top-end escorts as well. Even though it's only a 5/1, the potential for damage output here, when you're testing and you're able to stay in the aft flank and flank targets a lot, this is a heavy contender for a tremendous amount of damage output. You'll simply have to just overcome its squishiness initially. But this thing's going to be nice. That battle cruiser having 2 commander seats, it loses the cruiser commands because of it, it looks like, but it's still going to be a nice ship.
Oh yeah.
That Raider is going to be phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
All I can say is... Oh, go ahead. I was going to say... Oh, okay. What I was going to say is... let me get a hold of that Raider. I'll show you screwballs. It's not as squishy as you think it's going to be. As soon as I saw it said Miracle Worker, boom. It's never going to be squishy. Oh, shouldn't be squishy. It's some people may make it squishy. There is lots and lots of deliciousness that I see with this potential ship.
I will say I'm surprised it's not a pilot ship. Well, it is a Raider.
To be more overpowered?
And 2, I mean, from all the maneuvers we saw of the Maquis Raider, both in show and from other works of fiction, like the books and comics and have you, that thing did some pretty vicious maneuvers, and it was always fighting targets a lot bigger than it, and most times winning.
Yeah, but at the same time, it could fit Miracle Worker because of how the Maquis had to basically...
jury-rig everything. Yeah.
Jury-rig everything. It was a miracle the damn thing flew sometimes because they didn't have, near infinite resources like a major power in the Alpha Quadrant. So, Miracle Worker does make sense for the ship.
Yeah, I agree.
Since it's a Lobby ship, they might do a like they did with the Tier 6 bug ships. They come out with another variant or something.
Plus, I can understand why it didn't have pilot, because if I remember correctly from what we saw on Tribble, the Vanguard Raider for the Jim Hadar has a pilot seat on it. So that way they're not releasing 2 Raiders with the same specialization. You've got one with Miracle Worker and one with pilot, if I remember correctly. I'm not looking at it at the moment. I can't hear in a moment. But that also gives you extra flair. You've got a Raider that has pilot seating from the Jimadar, and then you've got a Raider from the Lobby store that's got Miracle Worker, so you can try out both seatings if you like Raiders.
Yep.
Please.
All I can say is Raider OP. Please buff.
But one thing, and I want to hear Blade's thoughts on this, because it's the Lockbox weapons. And, that's not going to be my forte at all. I'll probably mess around with them and everything, but it's proc, from what it says, minus 20% all damage output. So you're debuffing the damage output of your enemy when this thing goes off. The proc rates are low if they're basing it like every other proc rate. So it's a low proc rate, unless you're probably running a full set of these and you're probably getting semi-decent activations. So, I want to know, with these Ferenginar Plasma space weapons, how do you think it will help your tanks, because nowadays I know you like to either use Tetrion or Polaron. Would this change your meta of how you build tanks now that you've got a plasma that works towards that realm?
For plasma builds, most definitely. Because if I'm going to go for a plasma build, this is something that's going to be in there, because it's going to guarantee I'm taking less damage. So that's going to give me upfront damage negation on the foe, and then I figure, okay, let's assume I do get the disable on the ship. And assuming, of course, no built-in, cooldown and all that kind of stuff. Everything, then you figure not only am I debuffing their damage, I'm essentially shutting them down, guaranteeing they deal no damage to me, no damage to anybody else while they're disabled. That's going to be a pretty big deal. And then you start the cycle.
Well, the reason I was
over
asking,
again.
because it does stack. It is a stacking debuff,
Go
so
ahead.
if I'm looking at our page, it stacks 4 times, so if you're getting it stacking, it's a minus 80%.
Well, you figure, if it stacks up, and assuming it doesn't just immediately remove the stacks, and assuming there is some sort of minor internal cooldown to the disable, I'm guaranteed that no matter what, if I'm using a full stack of these, just about it, that I'm going to have at least a 20% debuff on the foe, which is going to be a huge deal for survival. And then that's not counting other powers that might debuff damage. If you take into account some of the command powers that can debuff damage, things like that, maybe even warp bubble, some of these things, and if you're running these, you could potentially do a complete shutdown in terms of their damage, to where they're never going to be.
So
able
my
to
question would be on your best tank build, because you've had one or two that we've been testing in the background on Tribble and everything. Would your top tank stay with, if I remember correctly, Polaron, or would you switch your top build over to Plasma when this hits, or are you just going to keep 2 separate ones because they're on par with one another?
For that, it's going to depend if there's, like I said, an internal cooldown to the ability. And it's going to depend on just how good of a proc rate and everything we actually get with these Ferenginar plasmas. Most likely, I would maintain 2 separate tanks, just to have, different variety of energy weapon, because it gets kind of bored looking at the same thing all the time. But that's just me anyway. I would need to see more of these before I gave a really firm, definitive
I will
answer.
say it probably would work well as a broadsider. You just fall straight into the into an enemy line, get them all grouped around you, just beam fire at will everything.
You could. Oh, believe me, there's definitely some stuff that I've got planned for this and everything that we'll be testing sometime. But, anyways, that's what we have for the stats on our lockbox and everything, and so definitely a lot of good stuff coming in this box. But moving along, we have our RP blog of Reunion.
Yes. So, can you hear me first of all?
Yes.
Yay! I love you, Nick.
Unfortunately, I mean, yes.
Okay, so in this RP blog, or fiction blog, we catch up with Odo and see what he's doing. And we also catch up with the Jem'Hadar that Starfleet found in an episode of Deep Space Nine, and I don't remember the
We'll get to that.
Yes, we'll get to that. But, so it catches up, follows him a little bit, and catches up as to what's going on now. And it is an interesting thought from you guys. Did you guys read it?
I've read it. I like the setup it does before the release. So, and as the one I shall not spoil anything. I see a lot of connections from what we've already seen. works out very well.
Yeah. It's hard not to spill anything.
Not
We'll
really.
talk
You just
about
say not spoil and then don't
Yeah.
spoil.
It,
Uh,
oh my god.
Did you know there's
Oh,
a
no,
Jim
guys,
Hadar in the
I
episode?
heard-
Did you know that you can play as a Jimadar?
I heard.
Did you know there's a
DS9
founder
something.
in the blog?
One of those things.
Oh my god,
and
Odo's a
I think
founder?
Artie will agree with me. It's well written. They can get the story across really well. It's just one of those many things that we wish we could also see in game in some way that we probably won't, because maybe 1/10 of what's written in a blog is what we might see in the game because of resources that are needed to make the episode a reality kind of deal. It just is one of those things. If we could see the visual representation of it, it would make it that much better. Because the way you read it, it almost could have been like a 7-8 minute mini episode that you could have watched right after the DS9 episode, leading right into Victory's life, and that would have been just absolutely flawless.
yeah, I can see that.
But they've got a good writing staff when it comes to the blogs, doing all these story things.
Yep.
That they definitely do. But anyways, we don't really want to say too much about this because we don't want to be that guy that spoils the movie at movie theaters and that kind of stuff. But anyways, I'm actually going to swap our things around because I know we're going to have something to say about these DS9 episodes. So let's go ahead and we will tackle the Renegades Regret Week 2 rewards. And for the... Yep, on console for players. Now, those of you on console, you've been having your shot at the Renegades Regret featured episode and everything. For this particular episode, you play from the perspective of Captain Nethpar to see what made her actually defect to the Alliance. And part of it, this gives you the new ground trait, Watch Your Back, or the new space trait, Redirected Armor Plating, both of which I have actually found quite a bit of use for. And you will also get a featured episode weekly reward box that will give you your choice of a universal tech upgrade or a captain's specialization point and everything to the captain that opens it. The box itself is bound to account on pickup and everything, and can be traded among your characters. You have to open the spec point on a toon that is level 60 at least. So that is something there. But yeah, I definitely enjoy these traits and everything, because, well, let's just say if you've got an escort, this gives a lot more survivability when you're getting hit from the sides or behind.
I feel like these are very useful, mostly because you got your the constable spec. It's a lot of like forward firing, kind of, not really much defending your back, from what I've seen. So having these traits be there to back that up, I feel like work out great, as well with any tanking that you ever require for both space and ground.
For this mission, I'll say it's going to be misleading for you guys if you haven't gotten the Zenkethy Escort, just because the way they scale up the weapon damage and its survival, since you're dealing with this ship and weapons, and you're basically making sure that you don't die in a story where you're not supposed to die. So just take that as it were. It's not going to be that powerful when you get it. But for
Slight
a mission,
caveat, I guess.
you finally get to explore why Nethpar did what she did, her thinking behind it, and it's always a nice thing when you can explore your former enemy's thoughts as to why they were justifying what they were doing or why they switched sides. always a nice thing to not only be able to just read about, but in this case we get to play through and experience. So, really helps us understand why she switched sides, she's trying to help us now, and she's conflicted all the while, even to this point now. So, I liked how they did the episode.
You know, now I kind of want to go test see if I can get blown up in that mission. Because you could totally die on ground. That's entirely possible. I've done that too many times, but I haven't tried that in space. There's not really anything worth threat in space.
Kind of. But, yeah, definitely go out there, folks. Be sure to pick up those traits. They are a very good thing to have. Whatnot. We also highly recommend the specialization point, because that's one less bit of grind you're going to have to do. And everything. And you can, in my opinion, get a heck of a lot better tech upgrades from the Phoenix boxes or so on.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Anyways, coming up on our final article of the evening, we were assigned some homework, and this is to watch certain Deep Space Nine episodes before Victory is Life. And there's actually an episode I think should be on this list, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, the devs and everyone's like, yeah, there's going to be a lot of things that you're going to see in Victory's Life. We all know you might have seen DS9, or you might have skipped over, or you might have watched an episode here and there. Here's some specific things that we're going to call out to, and if there's probably going to be some plot points around it. So, here's the episode list. You got Season 1, Episode 13, Battle Lines. Then you got Season 2, Episode 26, Jemadar.
Battle Lines may be listed as Episode 12, depending on how your service. If you stream, depending on how they split the pilot.
Right.
It's Episode 13 if the pilot is split in.
Yeah.
Because I started watching this last night, the list last night, and Battle Lines was labeled as Episode 12 on
Right.
Important to note.
But yeah, the Battle Lines is that episode where the guys of DS9 take Kai Opaka through the wormhole and take a look at some stuff there. Then you got Season 2, Episode 26, Jemadar, where you first see the Jemadar and what they can do, and they totally wreck things. But, yeah. And you got Season 3, Episode 1 and 2, The Search. Again, with the provider, it may be just one big episode or two episodes. Then you got Episode 6, The Abandoned.
Which, if I remember correctly, that's the one they're referencing when it comes to this reunion blog, is he's the abandoned Jem'Hadar.
Yes. He's that kid. That one guy. Then you got Season 4, Episode 7, Starship Down. Which is, if I remember, that's where the Defiant's fighting inside of a gas giant. Let's see. Then you got Season 4, Episode 9, The Sword of Kahless, which references the Herc taking the Sword of Kahless and that whole journey there. Season 6, Episode 10, The Magnificent Ferengi, where you have all the Ferengi band together to go save Mugi from the Dominion. And Season 6, Episode 19, In the Pale Moonlight, we bring the Romulans into the war.
Quite possibly, in my opinion, the most quintessential episode in Star Trek.
Yes.
And I say that just for writing purposes. How they wrote that episode, how it was delivered. If you're introducing anyone into Star Trek, you know that episode.
And then, yeah. Then finally you get Season 7, Episode 25, What You Leave Behind, the finale of DS9. So, yeah. Thoughts?
They hit it on the head with these, and In the Pale Moonlight, if that wasn't on there, yeah, you'd have to like fire the devs for not putting that episode on there.
Now, there is actually one episode that I think should be in there. And, hold on, my sound is doing its thing. Let me reset my headset sound right fast, because I know you guys can hear me. Disable that, enable that.
Something.
Yo!
Something.
Okay, now can you say something? Okay, there we go. So, for those people that don't know what I was referencing, for the past while I've had a really weird glitch that goes on where sometimes it's like my headphones get stuck, is the only way I know how to describe it, trying to broadcast a certain sound, and you might hear it on the local recording later. It sounds like a really weird popping coming through my end. And the way I have to clear that is I have to disable my headset and then re-enable it in the system settings. So yeah, if anybody knows what that is, feel free to let me know, because that is annoying as heck. But anyway, what I was going to say before I was rudely interrupted by my computer is that there is actually one more episode, which is technically a two-parter, that I think should be on this list. And I think Timberwolf especially is going to agree with this whenever I say which one it is, and that is the episode Sacrifice of Angels. Because...
yep, I'll agree with that one.
The best cinematic fleet battle in Star Trek history.
Yeah. And they use a lot of those scenes from that particular episode, and they reuse them in multiple other starship battles in the game. I mean, not the game. Wow, in the show. So it's, but just the level of starship combat they were trying to put in that episode. It should have been in there just to show how deadly the Dominion can be. I think what Darkblade is putting into this, how deadly they can be, how aggressive and overpowering, to show how much they're getting their butt kicked right now.
Well, part of what I was going for is, when you think about it, what's actually in that episode is, it actually harkens back to one of the episodes in-game, and that is the episode The 2800. Remember when the Dominion fleet comes out of the wormhole? Well, in the episode Sacrifice of Angels and Favor the Bold, what's one of the things that happens?
Prophets.
And everything. They get... Exactly, and that is arguably the event that allows the Alpha Quadrant powers to win the war. So without that event, who's to say that the Star Trek timeline that we know may not be completely different? I'm just happy to know that the prophets knew that we would be able to take care of them in the 25th century. They just put them there and be like, yeah, they can handle it. It'll be a little unexpected, but they can handle it. They got this.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah, like I say, and when you think about that episode 2 in game, to me, that's a really important one that I'm really surprised did not make it to this list.
To be fair, that episode is already in game, specifically dealing with things to big games.
Yeah.
Could be that.
Yeah, it's referencing other things. Yeah.
You could argue that, I guess. You could argue it from that point, I'll give you that. But, anyways, that's what we have for our articles this week and everything. There was some pretty significant stuff to get through, especially with the stats for our new Lockbox coming out. But with that said, we're going to go ahead and dive into our budget build this evening. And this week, this is going to be the first of our Dominion faction ships, and we have the T5U bug ship that they give you for free just by starting out on the Dominion faction. Now, there are a few things to note with this, that this particular bug ship is the one that you would get starting out, regardless of, and you got it?
There we go.
Right, and we're fetching the link for Teacher because apparently hers didn't update for some reason. But, anyways, what I was saying is, for this particular bug ship, this is the one that you're going to get regardless of what type of Jem'Hadar you start as. Whether you start as a tactical, whether you start as a science, or whether you start as an engineer. You're going to get this particular version of the bug ship. Now, there are some differences between this T5U bug and the one that you can get out of the Phoenix boxes, notably in the consoles and their bridge officer seating. So it is really another version of the bug ship, just like the devs said it would be. Now, the one thing that understandably does kind of suck if you're a carrier player is that it does not unlock the frigate pets, or the attack ship pets, for your dreadnoughts. So that is one thing that does kind of suck, but also at the same time understandable, because it is technically a free leveling ship unlocking a premium tier reward, which would be like expecting the free Sovereign to unlock wide-angle quantums. It's just not going to happen. But what it looks like here is, and you'll notice there's actually some blank spots in this particular build that I left blank due to errors in the programming of the ship into the builder. Now, I did make notes to explain the missing gaps, but in the meantime, until that's fixed and everything, just be aware of that. What you're actually going to see in-game is not necessarily exactly what you're going to see in the builder until they can take care of that. But, anyways, diving into this particular ship, obviously we took it down the Polaron route because that's going to be very, very easy for us to get some stuff for. Now, they did say that at some point and everything, or that we would be able to go back and redo some of the old missions, or do some of the old missions on our Jem'Hadar tunes and everything. So, we are going to be using some of the old stuff, obviously. Now, for this particular ship, they give you quite a bit of stuff to start out with. All of it Mark 12, very rare. And, as far as our weapons go, this particular version of the ship, obviously, is a 4-3 layout. In the forward section, we have one of the weapons that comes with the ship, which is a Polaron dual cannon. It has the accuracy crit damage and critical hit mod. So, not the greatest set of mods starting out, but for Mark 12, very rare, just handed to you, that's actually not bad. Then we also have our chronometric Polaron dual heavy cannons, which are DMG ×2 crit D variety. And then we have two of our Dominion Polaron dual cannons, which you will get from the Boldly They Rode mission. Then, for our rear weapons, we have one of the Polaron turrets that came with the ship, or the Polaron turret that came with the ship, I should say. We also have the Quantum Torpedo that comes with the ship, one of them. And then the Chronometric Polaron Heavy Turret, which is also a DMG ×2 crit D. And then, for our shields, our engines, our deflector, and our warp core. Now, as of what we're seeing on Tribble right now, this is what you're going to currently get with the ship. And this is actually a pretty big deal, what they're handing you for free. And that is a Mark 12 very rare version of the Jem'Hadar set. This is the one that you get from Boldly They Rode and Operation Gamma. So Jem'Hadar characters are going to get a Mark 12 version of this for free, it looks like. So that's automatically going to give them a heads up in terms of this. This is actually a set that I've used quite a bit for tanking, and for a lot of my Polaron builds. Then, for this particular set and everything, it's got a deflector, engines, and a shield with it. Now, the downside, of course, is that it doesn't come with a warp core, mainly because warp cores didn't exist at the time this set was released. But, for this particular warp core and everything, we're going to use our very trusted Temporal Phase Overcharged core. This is one you guys have heard me harp about for quite a few of these builds now, actually. It's because it is a very potent warp core at the budget end, very hard to beat this particular core and everything. And for those of you that are familiar with the Delta recruitment events and everything, as you've been leveling your Delta recruits, you're familiar with a little device known as the Temporal Negotiator. Now this Temporal Negotiator device would cut your bridge officer cooldowns in half for its duration, This essentially does the same thing in the form of a warp core capacitor. So you're automatically getting a leg up in the fact that you're getting a Mark 12 version of the Jem'Hadar set versus the standard Mark 11 that they give and everything, which they might go back and change. I don't know if they're going to do that or not, but if not, then you still get a leg up. Anyways, and then you've got your warp core. Now, as far as devices go and everything, you get some... I want to think this one was no, it was just the 2 devices on Tribble. But as far as devices go, we like to think of them as personal preference, but one that we do like to recommend to people is the Subspace Field Modulator. Now this particular device, it gives essentially the free equivalent of a neutronium armor's worth of resistances while it's active. Now, the downside to it is it does debuff you for a minus 400 protonic damage resist rating. Now, there aren't that many enemies in game that use protonic damage resistance, but it is worthy of making a note. Other devices you might like are the energy amplifiers, particle flood batteries, weapon batteries, engine batteries, aux, Gemini hardpoints, some kind of batteries like that and everything. Could not think of the last one. Everything that we always... Armor catalyst, that's another one. But, yeah, point being, you've got a lot of devices to choose from, and with the Phoenix event still technically going on for a little bit longer at the time of recording this, your red matter capacitors. Now, getting into the console section, you'll see some blank slots here. Now, there is a brief bit of prefacing and explanation I need to give here as to why that is. Now, for this particular version of the ship, on Tribble, it is actually a 4-3-4 layout, meaning it is 4 engineering, 3 science, and 4 tactical consoles. Now, on the builder, it's not entirely set up correctly, because it's using the console layout of the old Bug ship that we had previously. So folks just need to be aware of that. I did make notes of what the correct layout is supposed to be for you guys for when you see this later. But for our engineering consoles, we have the Trillium D plating, which is going to replace our neutronium armor. Reason being is you get more benefit this way. This is going to give you a nice chunk of damage resistance as well as some nice shield capacity. So it's basically a neutronium armor and a field generator slammed into one thing. Then we have our assimilated module from our Omega reputation, which is, for tacticals at least, one of the ones that you get maxed out for free at Tier 5. Then you get, and I'll touch base more on that for you guys once we actually get to the notes section. Now for this particular console, the reason we're going to have this on the ship is because it gives a nice little chunk of critical chance and severity and everything, and it's something you're going to have access to straight out of the box. What you got to do is grab the dill, and of course grab the marks and so on. Then, since we're using Polaron, we've got the piezoelectric focuser from the Lucari reputation, which is basically a field generator, Polaron tactical console, and an RCS console slammed into one thing. So it is very, very potent in this instance. And then our blank slot here for our 4th engineering console should be our new Gamma Task Force reputation console and everything, which you'll be able to get from Tier 1. And it does provide a nice little boost to Polaron, as well as shared cooldown on mines, and I believe projectile and also mine weaponry it buffed a little bit too. I don't have the exact stats in front of me, but needless to say, very good console. Now for our science consoles and everything. The science consoles that come with the ship aren't that bad and everything. They're actually pretty good for what we might normally get for a starting ship. But as far as science consoles go, we picked up a temporal disentanglement suite from the Butterfly mission. Now this particular console provides a boost to your critical chance and severity dependent upon aux power. It is also essentially a field generator as well, in the fact that it's going to boost your shield capacity. And then it also gives a little bit of damage resistance rating to your shields. So an all-around very good console and everything. Then we're supposed to actually have 3 science consoles here. I made a note of this in the notes section. And the other 2 science consoles that we're going to have are the restorative particle focusers, the Draenex ×2 variety from our Crenum lab. Then, for tactical consoles, this is where it gets pretty cool in my opinion, is you actually have 3 of the Polaron phase modulators that come already on the ship. So these are going to start out at Mark 12, very rare that you're going to have on the ship. The only one that you're going to have to go out there and pick up is going to be the chronometric capacitor from the Time and Tide mission. So that's what we have for gear. We'll take a quick look at the set bonuses. And apparently I do not have a Jem'Hadar item on me. Let me run to the shipyard.
Don't worry,
as I'm
we'll stand
explaining
here.
that. But for our, well, it's gonna do a thing. But anyways, for our chronometric weapon, let's see if it's gonna let me. Actually, I know what I'm gonna have to do. Let me run to the shipyard. I thought I had it on me. I do apologize, folks. I'll just pick out.
This is what happens when you hoard too much. You forget what you're hoarding.
Ship.
It's a hoarder.
He's not wrong, you know. Just because I know it will annoy certain people on Kirby's TeamSpeak that may or may not be listening. I may or may not have found 4 ultimate tech upgrades on 2 that I had totally forgot that I had.
Only to you, Blade.
Happens
Only
more
to
than you think. And more... Yeah, they're not wrong, you know. But anyway, there's our Jem'Hadar deflector.
Blade is going to be featured on next
second
week's
part it did
episode
something.
of Hoarders 2410.
Cool, but...
We're not, no.
Well, you see, again, they're not wrong. No, they're not. But for our Jem'Hadar set, this is what makes this particular version of it so good, is actually the set bonuses that you get. Now keep in mind, you're automatically going to have access to the 3 set bonus straight out of the gate. And this is where it's going to get interesting. Is for the 2 set bonus, you get a 15.4% Polaron damage boost as well as 30 drain expertise. You also get the anti-proton sweep, which is really, really good. And, well, can be good, I should say. And it's a 5-kilometer range, 90-degree cone, minute-and-a-half cooldown. It damages the shields of up to 5 enemies in front of you and everything. It is a minus 2.5 shield resistance for 7 seconds. And disables cloaking for 12 seconds, which can be boosted by Drain X. Now, one little thing that is interesting, since it is coming on a Dominion ship, or a Jem'Hadar ship, you get the Victory is Life, which is a 1% chance to strip a buff while using Polaron weaponry. Now, this only works if you're using the Jem'Hadar set on Jem'Hadar vessels and the Cardassian Galore, is what it says. Now, I have tested it before. It does, in fact, work on the Keldon. So it does work on the Galore and the Keldon both. So you're pretty good in that department. Then, for our chronometric weapon, let me go ahead and throw it on the ship so it will let me actually read these set bonuses to you guys. And if I could not fail at buttons... which I'm sure doesn't surprise any of them here.
It happens.
They're only
It's a
saying that
natural
because they do it worse than me.
Yeah.
But, then, for our 2 set bonus, for our chronometric weaponry and everything, it's not the heftiest bonus out there, but it is still something very nice. It gives us 3.6 aux power setting, and also a stacking aux power bonus that increases that lower aux power. Then, for the chronometric 3-piece, you get the chronometric energy converter, which is a 2-minute recharge into self for 15 seconds. You get plus 8.5% exotic damage and energy weapon damage boost. So that is a very potent set that you're going to have just by having all 3 of those items. But that's what we have as far as our gear and our weapons and everything. But anyways, moving on to our skills. Now, they do give you all of your skills already put together and whatnot. However, I'm going to highly recommend using your free retrain that you will get with your Jem'Hadar to make your spec your own. Now, for this particular spec, it's one that we've used, or kind of shifted towards, I should say. It's a variation on one we've used before. It kind of takes the middle-of-the-road approach. But for Lieutenant tier, we have 2 points in hull and shield capacity each, 1 point in shield and hull restoration each. We also have 3 points into our advanced energy weapon training, which is going to give a nice buff to our energy weapons. We also have 2 points into the improved EPS flow, which is going to help us out on our power there. Then we have a point in impulse expertise. We've also maxed out our control and drain expertise there, picked up the improved versions of each, and whatnot. Then we have 2 points into our targeting expertise and defensive maneuvering. It's going to offset some of the firing or the accuracy penalties to certain firing modes such as Faw and Scatter Volley. And then the defense is going to make us harder to hit. Then for our hull platings, we've picked up all 3 points there. That's going to be free defensive value just by having these. Then we have 2 points into the improved shield hardness, which is going to reduce the damage we take to our shields. Then we've maxed out our weapon amplification and specialization, which is going to be free critical chance and severity just by having these, whatnot. Then moving down to the captain tier, we have a point into offensive and defensive subsystem tuning. If you need more power in any one of the individual systems, you could slap an additional point into that specific system. Then we have 2 points into our improved exotic particle gens. This is going to buff any damage we might deal with exotic-based powers and whatnot. Then we also have the long-range targeting sensors. We've maxed that out to reduce our weapon drop-off penalty. Then finally you have your choice of either hull penetration or shield penetration. There is no right or wrong answer here. You can make arguments for either one. As long as you have one of these, you're going to be doing pretty good. Then for our Admiral tier, we have a point into Warp Core potential, which is going to be free power. Then we have 2 points into Tactical Readiness and Scientific Readiness, which is going to be a nice chunk of cooldown reduction just by having these on the ship. Then we get into some of the fun stuff. And for our specializations this time around, we went with Intel Primary and also the Command Secondary, and that's on another server, so let me mute over there for a second. But for our Intel, it is primary, because for a tactical Jem'Hadar, keep in mind this is going to be different for each type of Jem'Hadar, but we built this with tactical in mind. For a tactical Jem'Hadar, you're going to get the Intel for free, completely maxed out with all 30 points put into the spec. Then for Command, you're going to get 15 points put into the spec for free. So that's a lot of grind that you're not going to have to do. So you're starting out with one completely maxed out specialization and one that is halfway maxed out, which is one heck of a start.
It is.
Then coming into our traits and everything, this is where it gets fun, and this is going to be where we get into some of the R&D stuff when we touch base on the notes and everything. Now, For our personal space traits, we have the Cannon Training. We also have the Deft Cannoneer, which cannons, beams, and I think it was ground weapons that I put in there, is what you actually get for free at level 15 whenever you create a tactical Jem'Hadar. Then you get also, the other trait we're going to use is the Projectile Training to increase our projectile weapon damage. Elusive for free defensive value, which is going to make our ship harder to hit. The Nanite Repair Matrix for a nice little heal whenever you drop below a certain point. It comes from the Midnight Mission. Then the Point Blank Shot, which is going to increase our damage the closer we are to a target up to a certain maximum. Then we have the career-specific trait of the Last Ditch Effort. If you are not a tactical officer but would like to use this build, you can swap in your own career-specific trait. Now, keep in mind that you're not going to have the maxed out specs unless you've already done those and whatnot, but this assumes a Jem'Hadar tune, so that is something to be aware of. Then, for our next trait, we have the Operative, which is going to be a little bit of free crit chance and severity. And finally, the Fleet Coordinator for an increase in damage based on how many people are in your party. 2% minimum if it's just you, up to a 10% maximum if you're in a team of 5. Then, for our Starship traits, this is where it gets kind of fun in the fact that we can start out with 3 traits, actually, depending on how we play our cards. We've got our improved predictive algorithms from Intel, which is going to be a nice little bit of accuracy in that stuff. It comes from our free Intel, that's maxed out. Then we have the basic version of Command Frequency, that all ranks of fleet support no longer have a low hull requirement, and to be triggered, and it can be used more frequently. So I think that cuts it down to what, 5 minutes for the basic version? Or is that for all of them?
The standard cooldown is 15.
Standard cooldown is 15.
So is it for both versions that it cuts it to 5? Or
10. Improved command frequency 5.
So, okay. So that'll cut 5 minutes off of it anyway, which is still a pretty nice reduction. Then, for our third Starship trait, we have the Best Defense, which is another nice one from the House Peg mission. Your attack patterns grant a hull healing buff along with their normal effects. Now this is where we start getting into some of the nasty stuff and some of the fun stuff. For our first Reputation power, we're going to be using the Advanced Target Systems that comes from the Dyson Rep. It's a nice little chunk of crit severity. Then we're going to have the Precision from the Romulan Rep, which is going to be a nice little chunk of critical hit. Then we have our Aux Power Offensive for free Aux Power, or a free little bit of damage and accuracy based on Aux Power, I should say. I misspoke a little there. Then we get into one of our powers that comes from the Tier 2 version of the Gamma Rep, and that is the Enhanced Sensors. And basically what this does is it is a 15% boost to the effectiveness of drain and control-based powers and abilities and everything. So this is going to buff your Polar on drain quite a bit. Then for our active reputations and whatnot, some of these you're going to have automatically given to you, and some of them you're going to have to grind for a little bit. First up, we have your Anti-Time Entanglement Singularity. This creates a nice little AoE damage effect to the enemy that does physical damage as well as slowing them down and everything while it is active. The next power we have is our Biomolecular Shield Generator. This is the little green ball you see people using in maps like ISA and some others. It regenerates starship shields a little bit while you're inside, giving a little bit of healing to them and a massive damage reduction to them. Then we have your Deploy Sensor Interference Platform, which, if I remember my notes 100% correctly off the top of my head, this is one of the ones you're going to have for free just by creating a tactical Jem'Hadar. So this is the Deploy Sensor Interference Platform, and what this will do is it will spawn a little platform that taunts enemies to itself that will last until it is either destroyed or the duration runs out, whichever of those two things happens first. And it's a nice, oh crap, I'm gonna die button. Then, for our final one, we have the Quantum Singularity Manipulation, and this will increase all science stats by plus 100 for the duration, as well as granting a temporary cloaking effect. And for this particular power, we recommend using any exotic-based buffs you may have first, anything like that. Fire this off, then drop maybe supercharged gravity wells, whatever you want to throw, and then maybe follow with your anti-time entanglement singularity, and you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck out of your anti-time. Then we come to the bridge officers, and this is where some of the changes need to be pointed out. Now, I think I have a copy. I actually do have a copy of my notes right here. Alright, so the differences between this version of the ship and what is in the builder are kind of significant a little bit. Now, for the bug ship that you're going to get for free, it actually has a Commander Tactical, a Lieutenant Tactical, Lieutenant Commander Engineer, Ensign Engineer, and Lieutenant Science. So I did make a couple of notes and everything as to the differences and what certain powers should be. But let's go ahead with what we've got here. For our Commander Tactical, we have a Tactical Team 1, a Beta 1, Rapid Fire 2, and Scatter Volley 3. Then for our Lieutenant Tactical, we have a Torp Spread 1 and a Beta 1. Then for what should be our Lieutenant Commander Engineer, we have a Emergency to Engines 1, a Reverse Polarity 1, and then an Emergency to Weapons 3. Then for our Ensign Engineer, we have the Engineering Team. This is going to purge certain debuffs like that pesky viral matrix the Iconians love to use. Then for our final seat, which is our Lieutenant Science, we have a Science Team 1, which is going to heal our shields a good little bit, as well as purging certain debuffs such as subnucleonic-based effects. And then finally we have our Hazard Emitters power, which is going to be a nice heal over time effect. It's going to purge certain things such as the Borg plasma fires. But anyways, that is some stuff to make note of and everything. I did include everything in the notes section. Now comes to the fun part. Now, as far as what you're going to get for R&D for a Tactical Gem Hadar, you're going to get the beams, the cannons, and the ground weapons R&D schools for free. They're going to be rank 15, meaning all you need to do is acquire the appropriate DOFs, and you can start crafting right away as long as you've got materials. Then you're going to get the Intel for free, which is 30 points, and then half of the command tree, which is 15 points. And then you're going to get the Tier 5 versions of the Omega and Iconian reps for free. So if you're somebody that loves the Iconian set, you can grind one of those out day one. And then a lot of the items actually came with the ship, which is actually very refreshing. And for our total amount of dilithium, you're looking at 50,000 dil, which is about 7 days build time, assuming only one tuna is refining the 8,000 dil per day. And something that we don't see a lot with some of our builds is we actually did not touch our 2 million EC budget. So our 2 million EC is actually still fully intact. The only thing that's going to take a while is actually gathering the dill.
Compared to
Yeah,
some of our
thoughts
other
on
budget
our
builds,
ship and our build.
this is definitely a lot of bang for your buck without spending a buck. Really.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this is definitely a nice. That this is
Breaking up a little
definitely
there,
a
Kirby.
nice, solid build.
And I do have to say, I was rather surprised to log on and see that they gave us the actual Jim'Hadar set. I mean, I kind of see why they did, when you think about it. Exactly. But, yeah, that was a nice little surprise to log into Tribble to see, and it's like, oh lord, yes please! But, what about from our flea-bitten friend down there?
I'm still here.
If he is still conscious and
I like
with
to do
us.
things that
There
literally
he
are
is.
as cheap as possible, these budget builds. I occasionally only use the event stuff when it comes out recently. And the one thing I like about this with the Jim'Hadar, especially, since we'll have access to the Jim'Hadar missions first on that tune, more than likely, is if you're not fond of cannons, you know, its initial setup, you're trying to refine it, and it's something that we've released pictures of, is the first few missions that they've done blogs on give you Polaron weapons. So if you wanted to refine this fully, I believe the first mission gives you crit severity 2 damage times 1 Polaron beam arrays at Mark 12 and dual cannons, and then the second one gives you dual beam banks. So if you're not fond of cannons or you're not fond of the beams on the ship, you can actually switch those out as you replay those missions to refine it whichever way you want it. So that's always a nice thing, considering you're starting off with a very nice ship to start off with. But I like what I heard. Definitely make that work. The only thing with starting off, eventually I'd want to put the magnified firepower on there, since we're going to be starting off trying to level up Gamma Task Force as a reputation. That damage boost that you get from leveling up that rep at, I believe, Tier 4 will be a nice addition once you finally leveled up the rep enough to get access to that trait.
Oh yeah.
Been
did we
reduced from
mention
what
that,
it was originally,
that's also
but
a
it's
Cat 2
still
bonus?
very nice. It's 5% Category 2, and it's a nice chunk.
Oh yes. But anyways, that's what we have for a budget build this evening and whatnot. Hope you guys like this. Again, keep in mind that this is not entirely what you're seeing on the screen, accurate to what the ship is going to be in-game. I did make notes for you guys, so you can see the differences of what everything is actually supposed to be. But, anyways, as far as the Bugs Corner goes for this week, I don't really have too much that isn't already known about or that I can really discuss. But for our Teacher's Corner, this is actually a requested video, and if her mic can hold up,
video was actually
what have you got for us this
on
week?
air last week by
Sorry.
Artie. By Artie. No, it's great because I didn't realize I didn't have it. I thought I had done one, but yeah. So I showed the Phoenix box, what's in it, where to get it, how to claim your free one, and how to get them through the Dilithium store as well. Yeah.
Sweet.
Questions, comments?
As a follow-up from last week, that was very, boom, straight on. Now you have it all prepared for when someone goes, hey,
Yes.
I don't know how the Phoenix box works. Throws video at them.
Yep.
But yeah, that's definitely have a link to that for you guys, so you can check that out if you're curious about the Phoenix boxes and don't really understand what the big hullabaloo is. But anyways, coming up for the RP corner, we do have a little something this week from Artie. What have
in
you got
the
for us
notes,
this
you'll
week,
notice
dude?
I don't have anything, for RP wise, even though, because Victory's Life is coming along, as I mentioned last week, I don't want to spoil anything. But there was something that was mentioned to me recently that it doesn't really need a full-on article for. Someone did notice that a lot of the new Jem'Hadar stuff is going with a lot of wingman stuff. You know, like with the Vanguard ships, you have the ability of calling in two other Vanguard ships that basically protect you and fight with you when you're in a Vanguard vessel. You have the improved command frequency to get a allied Jem'Hadar ship immediately, no matter what your hull capacity is at, as well as you have multiple Jem'Hadar vessels now that have a lot of carrier space. Basically, from what I've noticed with this, including from what I was told about it, you basically can run your own little Jem'Hadar fleet as it should be. So, what's your thoughts on this?
I
It's OP.
I think he
Please
just
buff.
died. Lapse. Sparkles. But yeah, no, it's man, those mechanics. It's gonna be interesting. I'm waiting to see the video of of the high DPSers doing a solo where only their support ships are fighting in
Oh no,
the ISA.
I feel like that's going to be
Yeah.
a fun one, because if you have the entire team full of Vanguard ships, no matter what they are, like say everyone runs in with the Vanguard carrier, you have all your carrier pets, everyone's attack wing that they have, as well as whatever Jem'Hadar ship they call in for support. They brought in the bane of the Dominion just onto that whatever mission you're on.
I know, right?
it just, I don't
Yeah,
know.
seriously.
It feels really great, and plus with the build, add that to this. You're already set up to go kill things. Might as well do it more efficiently now, right?
I know, right?
Yeah.
Basically, this dance is exactly what's going to happen
Right.
to them.
They're gonna be as hell.
Yes. But RP wise,
God, she went there.
it just feels so Dominion. Just feels so much like the Jem'Hadar of overpowering your enemy. I mean, you wouldn't let inefficiency break your line, right? It works. I like it. It's great.
Nope. And I do have to say, since we're kind of on the subject of the Dominion and being OP and whatnot, and I may have said this last week, I don't remember if I did or not, but especially on the ground as well, if you're somebody that appreciates, squad tactics, that kind of stuff, then, yeah, you're going to enjoy these Jem'Hadar, because you move like a squad straight out of a Tom Clancy game. Like you're in Rainbow Six Vegas, or The Division, or another game like that, and it looks and feels like you're an elite Jem'Hadar. And, yeah, they definitely outdid themselves with this one. But,
Yep.
anyways, thank you for mentioning that, good sir. For the
Oh yeah.
Broke in a good way, I feel.
because that is going to
Like
be
I
broken.
said, solo ISA with only the pets doing damage.
Yes, it's
I'll laugh
This
if
is
it.
solo, yeah.
I'll laugh
I
if it
guarantee it's
gonna
AFK
happen.
if they
One-
don't do any damage.
somebody's going to find a way.
I know, right? No, one Jem'Hadar Dreadnought carrier goes in and
That
never
would be
fires
funny.
a shot. All the pets kill everything.
Mm-hmm. That would be fun.
Challenge
me.
And there's probably going to be
extended.
somebody that's going to try it. There really
Waiting
is.
for the acceptance.
But, yeah. All these new Jem'Hadar mechanics, the new Raider, all that stuff, it's broke. Please buff. But, anyways, folks, that's what we have for a show this evening. And before we head out, Good shout out to our friends over at the Temporal Armada. Very cool bunch of people and whatnot. Be sure to check out their regularly scheduled programming as well. You guys will appreciate that. Also a shout out to other good friends over at the Kurtang Pirate Radio.
Yes.
The party is there. They always have a good selection of music. Gotta give them props on that. But also, if you have requests you'd like to see for the budget builds, please let us know and everything. We do take requests, and a lot of our videos in the past have actually been on those requests. Let us know, hey, this is the ship I'm looking for, this is the faction I'm on, I've only got a bare bones budget, or I've got a mid-range, or what can you give me for high-end? And let us know as well, do you want something that's pure damage? Do you want something kind of middle of the spectrum? Do you want something more tanky, or do you want to be a space wizard? Whatever it is, we'll hook you up with a good build. If you think that your build and gear is in order, but you want some help with your piloting, you think maybe if I could just learn to get to that one spot a little bit quicker, feel free to get us a brief little video clip and everything of your piloting. Get that to us somehow. Maybe put it in a Dropbox, send us the link and everything, or however you got to get it to us, and we'll analyze your piloting and we'll help you out. After all, we are the pilot review show. That is part of what we do. But if you have requests for the Teacher's Corner, please feel free to let her know. She does take requests, as you obviously saw if you tuned in last week. But as far as maybe it's just you don't understand a certain little something in the game, and she might just do a video about your specific topic. If you have bugs, feel free to let me know and everything, although I don't always talk about bugs on air and everything. Rest assured, I do read the bug reports given to me and everything, and I do pass them up the chain and whatnot to the devs whenever possible. But they don't like bugs any more than you or I do. Feel free to send them to me. Feel free to send it to one of these screwballs. They'll be sure to get them to me, and I in turn will get them to the devs. Finally, if you have a subject you'd like to discuss for the RP Corner, feel free to let Artie know. He does take requests on that. Could be as simple as you just don't know as a DM how you want to handle a certain particular occurrence, or it could be you're looking to get into RP and not really sure where to start. Just let Artie know, and he may just talk about your subject on air. But anyways, folks, that's what we have for a show this week. Thanks for tuning in and everything, and working with us due to prior life commitments. Good commitments, mind you, but definitely appreciate that. But for now, folks, this is the Pilot Review Show, reminding you to have your Tribble spayed or neutered.
Yeah.
Goodbye, everybody.